What's up, Heldy? How are you today? A good morning. Hope everyone's having a great start to their week, a great start to their month, May 1st. Just getting some stuff done here in the pre-show, so just give me a second and we can get started. Some post-draft decompressing. I feel you on that, Heldy. I feel you on that. Catching up on 200 emails. You don't seem to me that tells me you're not an inbox zero kind of guy. I'm an inbox zero kind of guy. Got to have the inbox at zero by the end of the day. I was an Outlook noties turned off on vacation guy. That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. That's very fair. Okay. Got my notebook all set up. We've got the tweets sent out. I'll give everybody a minute or two to get in here. Good morning, Tuttle. How are you today? Happy Monday. And we can get started here in just a second. And my 5 favorite picks from the 2023 NFL Draft, the focus of today's show. I have them all written down, ready to go. Not in any particular order, but just the 5 that really stand out to me as good picks for the teams that made those selections. Now, Chris, if I do not see the Sean Clifford pick on this list, I may have a conniption. Well, Heldy, I've got bad news for you, my guy. I've got bad news. Because I can tell you one pick that didn't make the top 5 list. And that would be Sean Clifford getting selected by the Green Bay Packers. Packers do make the list, though. Michael says, could you just go down the list and read the Steelers picks for every round? You could. You could. We classified them as one of the big winners in my show over the weekend. Thought they did really well to help Kenny Pickett and really help their team overall long term. Thought they did very well. Actually, let me see their whole class. Because when I recorded the show, they had like 2 picks left. And I don't remember what they did with the last couple picks. Not that I think what they do on like the back half of day 3 is really going to change my opinion. But yeah, I mean, I think their first 5 picks are really good. I really do. So, all right, we'll go to this screen. Good morning, everybody. Welcome in, TDN Daily, a Monday edition, post-draft edition of the show. We've got your thoughts on the draft. If you want to share your 5, your favorite players, your favorite picks, we can do that. I plan on sharing mine and having a conversation. Just kind of a nice decompressing show. Just got in late last night, back from Kansas City, so the day after effect, is real. But just gonna have a nice fun show here today on a Monday. Relax for a little bit and then get out of here. So that's kind of the plan. And whatever you guys want to talk about when it comes to the draft, we will get to that here during the show as well. So hope everyone had a great weekend. Hope everybody enjoyed the draft. Hope everybody enjoyed the coverage that we gave in a lot of different ways. Live show, watch-alongs, premium watch-alongs, the stuff on social. Hope everybody got a chance to enjoy some of the stuff that they got to see from over the draft and over the weekend. So without further ado, I think we should get this show started, and I'll start sharing my 5 picks, and then you guys can share yours, and we can have a nice little conversation. So without further ado, I'm going to press the button, and we can get started. And welcome into the Monday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody's having a great start to their Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Hope everybody enjoyed the 2023 NFL Draft. Yes, it is in the books. We are closing the chapter on the 2023 NFL Draft, but don't worry. You know how it works around here. Draft day every day. The 2024 cycle will begin soon enough. And it felt like apropos. It felt like the proper way to start off the week to discuss my favorite picks from all 3 days of the 2023 NFL Draft. The players and team fits and just overall picks that I really, really enjoyed from the 2023 NFL Draft to close that chapter, to put an end to the 2023 NFL Draft, because just because they aren't making picks doesn't mean there's not stuff for us to discuss. So I figured for today, I'd write down my 5 favorite picks, and we would discuss them here on the show. We've got the live YouTube chat going as well. I'm sure they'll have some thoughts on the picks that I have, kind of soft-circled, and I'm sure they'll have some of their own that we'll be able to have a conversation about, and whatever else from the 2023 NFL Draft that we want to discuss here on the show. But a lot of fun. Had a great time in Kansas City. Had a great time being in the draft atmosphere with the entire TDN team, working very hard and having a good time watching the draft and producing some content. You know, it's kind of our Super Bowl every year, but had a lot of fun. It's fun to see everybody, fun to get together and produce some content. You know, being virtual every single day is one thing, but being together in the same room and laughing and bantering and reacting to picks together, it was a lot of fun, and I always have a blast on draft week. Sad that it's over, but the best part about this job is that there's always a new draft cycle right around the corner, and we will transition soon enough to 2024 here on this show. But like I said, we're going to close the chapter on the 2023 NFL Draft, and I have my 5 favorite picks from the 2023 NFL Draft. And I want to make something very, very clear here off the jump. These are in no particular order, okay? I have them written down 1 through 5, but they're not in any particular order. I think there are probably some picks that I missed from this list. I wrote down the 5, and I went through the first couple of rounds, and I wrote down the ones that really, really stood out to me and the ones that I really, really liked. So there might be some that I missed. There might be some that you want me to have on my list. And again, these are in no particular order. We're just going to go in the order that I wrote them down in and allow us to have a conversation about them. So the first one that I wrote down, and it pains me that this is the first one that I wrote down, but it's the one that I constantly think about when I think about my favorite picks from the 2023 NFL Draft, and that is the New England Patriots with pick number 17 after trading down with the Pittsburgh Steelers, allowing the Steelers to come up and get Broderick Jones. They were able to move down, collect more draft capital, and pick up Christian Gonzalez with pick 17 in the 2023 NFL Draft. This is a guy, a corner that a lot of people thought could go inside the top 10. A lot of mocks had Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez going, 6 and 7 in the top 10. A lot of people thought Christian Gonzalez would only be able to fall to maybe 10 to Philadelphia, who could be looking long-term at some corner help. This guy falls all the way to 14. And in my predictive mock, I had him falling to 14, and I had the Patriots taking him. He gets there, the Patriots go, yeah, you know what, we're going to trade back. We feel like we can get some more draft picks. And they trade back a couple of spots, and they still land a guy that I thought they could have landed at 14. And this is, listen, you are now in a division in which 2 times a year you have to play Josh Allen. 2 times a year you have to play the Dolphins and Tua and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And 2 times a year you have to play Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and Alan Lazard and Mecole Hardman and Corey Davis. And you got to have somebody that can cover Stephon Diggs. You got to have somebody that can cover Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. You got to have somebody that can cover Garrett Wilson, because you are going up against some elite top-tier quarterback play 6 times a year. 6 of your 17 games before you even know what the rest of your schedule looks like right now are against Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, and that explosive Dolphins offense, and then Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. That is the mountain that this team has to climb, and so it's not a surprise that Bill, understanding maybe where they're at as a team, is deciding to lean into the Bill Belichick way, and they're going to build through the defense. Their first 3 picks all on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I know we're just shouting out the Christian Gonzalez pick, but they go Keon White in round 2, which I think is a great pick for them, and then they go Marte Mapu, the linebacker safety hybrid kind of player from Sac State. They kind of had a focus of, we got to build this defense up because of the guys that we are going to be facing 6 times a year. Heldy in the chat says, I wonder if they would have gone Keon White in round 1 if Gonzo went. Interesting question. I mean, they were very comfortable trading back to 17. So they either knew he was going to be there or they were comfortable with however the board was going to fall for them at 17 to get extra picks. What's up, Sam? Teets in the chat. But yeah, I really like this pick. I think it's a acknowledgement of where they're at as a team. It's an acknowledgement of the uphill battle that they're going to have to climb in the AFC East, and it's an acknowledgement of this is the way that we are going to have to try to beat these teams. We're going to have to be really, really good on the outside and be really, really good with our corner play, and they get a great player. Again, a player that a lot of people thought could go inside the top 10. They got all the way at 17 after trading out of their original spot in the first place. So all things considered, I think a great job there by the New England Patriots. Pick number 2. And I'm going to scroll to their draft class to see exactly with what pick he was selected, just to make sure. He was selected with the 13th pick in the second round. The Indianapolis Colts, who, by the way, are going to be on this list twice, so we're going to get both of their picks right now. Julius Brents to the Indianapolis Colts. I think no one is surprised that I found a way to put Julius Brents on this list, but I think the Colts got great value here with Julius. I think they got a great player in the second round. They're building their defense. I thought they had one of the best drafts of this entire 2023 draft. Take away the Anthony Richardson pick, right, and just put that one to the side because that's really going to be the boom or bust nature of whether or not people look back on this draft class finally, I think. But you, with your next 5 picks, this is what he did after Anthony Richardson. So imagine if Anthony Richardson is anywhere close to what we think he can be. This is what they did with the next 5 picks. Julius Brents, Josh Downs, which we'll be able to check that one off the list. That's on my list of my favorite picks as well, so we'll talk about them here together. Blake Freeland, Tommy Adebawore, and Darius Rush. That is what they were able to do with their next 5 picks after selecting Anthony Richardson. And oh, by the way, they took a ton of good athletes in here as well. Athletic Profile was the name of the game for Chris Ballard. They added Will Mallory and Evan Hull with with a couple of their round 5 picks as well. So a great draft class overall by the Indianapolis Colts. But to me, their 2 picks on day 2, Julius Brents and Josh Downs are I think, great picks. Great value on Julius Brents. And again, you need good corner play in the AFC with the quarterbacks and the caliber of wide receiver that you're going to be facing each and every week. So I think that's great. I think Julius Brents is going to very quickly emerge as one of the best corners in that room for Indianapolis. And then Josh Downs. Listen, you want to give Anthony Richardson all the help in the world, you get him a player like Josh Downs. Again, a player that a lot of people thought was going to be mocked mocked him, have him going in the first round of the 2023 draft. You end up getting him in the third round. I think that is a great, great haul to get a player like that for Anthony Richardson in this offense that you're going to be building. He's got Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, great running game. That's a great way to help out your rookie quarterback. And then you add a pass catcher in the draft. So kudos to Chris Ballard. A lot of pressure on Chris Ballard to do this right and to hit a home run in the draft. And I don't know how you can't sit here on May 1st and can't sit here in the post-draft era. Now, these players are going to go out and play. We're going to see how well this worked out. But I can't help but look at this and say that Chris Ballard did a fantastic job, all things considered. Again, the pressure on him to get a quarterback, to finally take a quarterback in the draft, I think he did a fantastic job here being able to put this draft class together. But the 2 picks I really wanted to highlight were the Indianapolis Colts selecting Julius Brents and Josh Downs. Those are 2 that really, really stood out to me. All right, I've got 2 more on my list. Would love to hear from you in the chat on some of your favorite picks here. Let me get to the team here just so I can see their full class, just in case we want to sidebar to anything else here throughout the course of this conversation. But a day 2 pick that I want to highlight, that I think is a guy that you just want to say fits the team identity, that with the way that he plays fits with the mantra of this coach and fits with the way that this team wants to play. It's on day 2, the New York Giants selecting John Michael Schmitz for their team. I loved this pick. We know that there was rumblings about him being a first-round player. We know there were rumblings of the Seahawks, the Giants, and the Jets all being really, really interested in John Michael Schmitz. And the Giants are able to get potentially the best center in this draft class, potentially the best interior offensive lineman in this draft class. They're able to get him in the back half of the second round. And this is a player that just so fits what the Giants want to do. The Giants and Brian Daboll, they're running the football with Saquon Barkley. They They just have an identity of being physical, of being tough, and they just embody their head coach and the mantra that he has. And again, you saw them embody that throughout the course. They played physical, they played tough, they grinded it out. Maybe they weren't the most talented team on the field, but they gave everything. They gave every effort in the world each and every week in order to push that team to the playoffs. Guess what? John Michael Schmitz saw him down in the Senior Bowl, saw some the way he conducts himself in practice, gives it his all in every single rep, firing up his teammates, guys to the left of him, to the right of him, players that he may be walking into Mobile into the Senior Bowl, doesn't know, but he's hyping them up, he's getting them fired up, he's being chippy during practice, trying to all right, let's go, let's do this, we're going to be the best, you be the best, I be the best, let's go and battle it out. And I think that's going to play very, very well in New York. It's going to play very, very well in that locker room. And again, you got to be able to protect Daniel Jones. The interior of that offensive line was a bit of a concern. The bookends that they have with Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. The left and right sides are good there. It's kind of the up the middle that you have to worry about. And John Michael Schmitz, a great linchpin to the middle of that defense. And some people are talking about Deonte Banks is such a good fit in Wink Martindale defense. Yes, listen, I don't want to just shout out this pick. They had a great, I think, day one and day two. Deonte Banks, John Michael Schmitz, and Jalen Hyatt, I think, are great. I think Eric Gray, adding him on day three was also fantastic. But the Giants had a very good first 3 rounds, I think. Tuttle with some shout-outs here on some of the picks that he liked. John Michael Schmitz, who we just mentioned. Sidney Brown going to Philly. Clark Phillips going to Atlanta. Tyler Scott to Chicago. Darius Rush to Indy. Sam's throwing some in there as well. I will tell you guys, Tuttle mentioned it. Sam, you also mentioned it as well. Tyler Scott to Chicago, where they got him, is one that if we had a outside looking in or an honorable mentions, Tyler Scott certainly would be on that list. I think they needed to come away with a receiver for Justin Fields, and they got a pretty good one, a guy that I thought could have gone on day 2. They ended up getting him at, 133. They ended up being able to snag him, and I think that's a great pick for Chicago and that offense. And Sam points out another one. Again, you want to talk about honorable mention, a player that's probably a first-round talent if he didn't have the injury concerns. Garrett Williams, the Syracuse corner, going to Arizona with pick 72. I thought that is a huge win for Arizona, who are undoubtedly one of my winners of the draft from what they were able to do, not just this year, but what they were able to set up in 2024. They are a team that you really need to be keeping an eye on in 2024. Heldy, his 5 favorite picks: Josh Downs, Darnell Washington, Nolan Smith, Chris Smith, and Steve Avila are some shout-outs from him. Yeah, guys, I think these are all great choices. Again, I think some teams did really, really well in the 2023 draft. There was a lot of value to be found after night 1, and I think you saw teams kind of recognize that and do a very nice job, not only accumulating draft picks so that they could get maybe more of these guys, but being able to really focus in and fill some needs. David says the Steelers won the draft. I would consider them one of my winners. I don't know if I would name them the number 1 winner. Michael wants to know, how do we feel about our Lions first round? All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna call a little bit of an audible. Let me get this last pick in, and then we'll do a bit of a free for all here when you can ask your guys questions. And Sam says Moro Hojomo to Philly was unfair. Agree 100%. The fact that he was able to be there at 249 for them, a little bit absurd. All right, my last favorite, and then we'll get into the free for all. We'll talk about different draft classes, things that you guys want my thoughts on. My last one is what Green Bay did with one of their picks. And it is what they did with their first second-round pick overall, and that is adding Luke Musgrave. You want Jordan Love to be able to succeed, you got to give him the infrastructure, and they certainly did, right? They added Jaden Reed. They took another tight end in Tucker Kraft. They added Dontavian Wicks. So they added a bunch of pass catchers. But to me, the guy that could come out of this is the best catcher from this draft class for the Green Bay Packers. That's Luke Musgrave. I think that is an athletic tight end that is really going to help Jordan Love in the middle of the field. They've got Christian Watson to be able to work on the outside. You need somebody that's able to work in the middle, and I think Luke Musgrave provides that for them. So I think for them to be able to get that, my favorite tight end prospect in this draft class, to be able to get him for Jordan Love, I thought was a huge win. And they also got Tucker Kraft, who a lot of people really loved as well. So they've got 2 really good tight ends that can thrive in that offense. So, all right, Michael wants to know how we feel about our Lions. Let's pull up the Lions draft class here. I have it on my other screen, and we're just going to go through it here. They went Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in round 1. They went Sam Laporta and Brian Branch in round 2. They got Hendon Hooker in round 3, Broderick Martin in round 3, Colby Sorsdahl in round 5, and Anton Green in round 7. And there's obviously going to be the conversation of positional value and where they went early, because with their first 4 picks, they went running back, linebacker, tight end, and safety. The name of the game is to draft good players. You guys know how we feel about this over at TDN. Draft good players. And they took Jahmyr Gibbs at 12. That felt a little rich, but I know I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was a first-round player. They took Jack Campbell in the first round, linebacker. A lot of people thought Jack Campbell was the top linebacker in this draft class. But we also talked about after pick 16 or so that there may not be a lot of first-round grades that match up with where we're at in the draft. And we said that after a certain point, it was going to get weird. And after a certain point, you were going to see teams kind of take a little bit of a risk on players because after those first-round grades run out, it's kind of a beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And so to me, did the Lions draft one of the best running backs in this draft class? Yes. Did the Lions draft one of the best linebackers in this draft class? Yes. Did the Lions draft one of the best safeties in this draft class? Yes, they might have drafted the best safety in this draft class. Did they draft one of the best tight ends in this draft class? Yeah, I think Sam Laporta was in the conversation for tight end 3, tight end 4, and they got him in the second round, so it's not too big of a reach. And so while I understand the positional value argument, did the Detroit Lions get better at positions of need through the first couple days of the draft? I think unequivocally the answer to that is yes. And so if you want to ding them for the positional value part of it, I can understand that, and that's fine. But I'm not going to look at this draft class and say that they reached on a running back in round 1. They took Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he fits exactly the way Ben Johnson wants to run his offense. You don't think Ben Johnson's going to be able to get creative in the way that he uses Jahmyr Gibbs? Again, the Jack Campbell pick is probably the one that I would circle a little bit more than Gibbs. I don't have a problem with Gibbs and where they took him. I really don't. I think Gibbs was a first-round player. They've got 2 first-round picks, so they took him after moving around. And oh, by the way, they took him with their first pick, knowing that they had a second pick. You want to criticize the Campbell pick? I can understand that, and I can get a little bit on board with that. But I am not going to criticize them for Brian Branch. I'm not going to criticize them for Sam Laporta, and I'm not going to criticize them for Jahmyr Gibbs. Tuttle says, and a shout out to the Arizona Cardinals for doing right by their franchise. It very well set them up for the next decade. They are set up perfectly to be able to expedite what needs to be a major roster overhaul. Monty Ossenford has come into this situation needing players all over the place. And not only did they get a good draft class this year, but they set themselves up for great success in 2024. I mean, I think they added at least 3 everyday starters for them right now. They had a Paris Johnson Jr. Now, where they play him is going to be a question mark, but I think he's an everyday starter for them, every week starter. They got B.J. Ojulari, who I think is going to be a major part of their pass rush, and they got Garrett Williams, who I think, as long as he's healthy, is going to probably be the best corner in that room right now. And that's not to say what could come of John Gaines on the interior, what could come of Michael Wilson as a wide receiver option. I mean, I think just those 3 picks are going to set up this team for success. And oh, by the way, they've got 2 firsts next year. I think they've got a second. I think they maybe have 2 seconds and 3 thirds. I'll pull up the Adam Schefter tweet of what they're actually. I could just pull up what the Cardinals' future draft picks look like here while we're doing the show. Tuttle says, really like the players. The method makes people uncomfortable. They got better with people they wanted in a draft that was stated to be lacking on high-end talent all along. I'm assuming, Tuttle, that you're referencing the Detroit Lions, and I would agree 100% with that sentiment. The method probably makes people uncomfortable, but the players they got, I don't think you can question are not good players. I think they did well in that regard. So that would be where it's hard for me to completely flunk them and to completely give them a hard time because, again, I think they got some pretty good players. They got Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round. I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was a first-round player. I mean, I don't think anybody listening to this show knows that I thought Jahmyr Gibbs was a perfect fit for the Detroit Lions. So there's some bias here, but I don't think that's a bad pick because I think it just makes a ton of sense for what they want to do. So let me pull up the Arizona Cardinals future draft picks because we just mentioned all of the great picks that they made this year. Paris Johnson, B.J. Ojulari, and Garrett Wilson are 3 that I think make a ton of sense. But they've got 2 1s next year. They have a 2. They have 3 3s. So you have a team that's going to be picking 6 times on day 1 and day 2 right now. And let's be honest here, folks. And I'm going to sound like a broken record because I've said this probably 3 or 4 times on various different shows over the last couple of days. But I think it's a point worth hammering home. That's assuming the Arizona Cardinals stick in those 2 spots next year with their pick and then the Texans pick that they've got. There's a scenario where the Arizona Cardinals finish very high next year, and they're going to stay with Kyler Murray so they don't need a quarterback, so they can trade out of that spot. They can do exactly what the Bears did. The Bears haul is pretty good, right? Imagine the Bears haul on top of already what the Cardinals have. The Bears didn't walk into this offseason with 2 firsts, a second, and 3 thirds. They walked into it just with the number 1 overall pick. So the Arizona Cardinals are set up very, very well, I think, to set up Kyler Murray and the future of the Arizona Cardinals very, very well. Tuttle says the spider webbing from those picks, if they keep Murray, is insane. Yes. And that to me is the big deal. That to me is massive because you paid Kyler Murray. I think it's very difficult to get out of that contract. Everyone on this show knows my feelings on that. You take that quarterback who you've paid. You build around the draft class you just had where you think you got one of your tackles. You got DJ Humphries and Paris Johnson Jr. You got an edge rush from B.J. Ojulari. You helped out in the corner room. You now get to walk in to 2024 with 2 first-round picks that you could turn into something. Maybe you want to stay and take Marvin Harrison Jr. because you want a number 1 wide receiver. Fair enough. But you can then move the other one. You've got at least 1 pick you can move. And you are going to be picking at least, right now, 6 times on night 1 and night 2. You don't think there's immediate value to be had for the Arizona Cardinals to be able to very quickly turn this team around? Yeah, I mean, I love it. I really love the job that they were able to do. I really love what they were able to accomplish all throughout the draft. The 2023 class, I give high grades to, but I think the wheeling and dealing to set up 2024 is fantastic. And oh, by the way, they have 2 5s as well. So they're doing just fine. On day 3, they've got 5 picks as well. They've got a round 4, 2 round 5s, a round 6, and a round 7. So they're doing just fine right now in terms of draft capital. And again, we talk about it all the time. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. Having this much draft capital sets you up to take on opportunity when it arises. Sean Wise wants to shout out DeJuan Jones to the Browns in the 4th round. That's another one that I think is good. DeJuan Jones, it was kind of a surprise that he lasted on the board as long as he did. And so if the Browns can get if the value there is good, if DeJuan can showcase to everybody, you shouldn't have taken me in the 4th round, you should have taken me in round 2, you should have taken me in round 3, then that's a great pick for the Browns. That's a great way to help their offensive line and be able to put them in a position to succeed. So we're mentioning other picks that we liked. And I think, listen, I didn't put it on the list because I didn't want to be biased, right? I try to be fair and objective when putting together this list. But I mean, how do I not use this platform? Because I didn't say it all weekend. I kind of tweeted about it a little bit. Some people mentioned me on Twitter when it happened. Kendre Miller, top 100 player. Kendre Miller, a 3rd-round pick to the New Orleans Saints. I tried to tell everybody that somebody was going to take him in the top 100. It's a good running back. It's a good player, and I love the fit for him in New Orleans. I think in that offense with Derek Carr, I think there's going to be opportunity depending on what happens with Alvin Kamara. We think that there's going to be a suspension for him. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Kendre, and I'm very, very excited to see him there with Derek Carr. I mean, you want to talk about the most on-brand team of all time for me. That's not the New York Jets. I got Derek Carr and Kendre Miller playing in New Orleans together. Heldy says, I have a really good feeling about Jaden Reed to Green Bay, and I don't know why. Listen, they put an emphasis on pass catchers in this draft. Maybe it's not necessarily on day one. So when they put an emphasis on it and they actually took a swing on some pass catchers, yeah, you kind of notice it. Michael says, as a Jets fan, do we like the Will McDonald pick? Seems like everyone loves or hates it. I'm indifferent on it. I understand the mentality. I think it's a pick to solve a problem that's a year away. And I don't know how that philosophy clashes with the idea of trying to go all in for 2023. You make the pick hoping that you're the GM and the coaching staff that's going to oversee that guy in 2024, because I think you drafted him to be a Carl Lawson and Bryce Huff replacement in a year. They have a pass rush rotation in New York. It's what they like to do. But I think with all the pass rushers that they have, this is what they have going into this year. They have Jermaine Johnson, Carl Lawson, Michael Clemens, JFM, Will McDonald, Bryce Huff. They have those 6 guys. To me, next year, Bryce Huff and Carl Lawson are gone, so the pass rush is going to be some combination of JFM, Jermaine Johnson, Michael Clemens, and Will McDonald, and it'll be those 4. And so they maybe try to address the need a little bit ahead of time. So that's what I think they did. They got to hope that they're the coaching staff and that they're the GM in charge in 2024 to be able to be the people that make that decision. And that requires success in 2023. So the Jets class overall, I'm not too in love with. I understand what they did. I understand some of the picks. The Tippmann pick I love. That's probably the only pick that I really, really love. They took some swings late that I think make some sense, but overall, I don't know if they necessarily came away with what I thought they needed to come away with to feel good about the draft class, because I think there are some holes that they needed to fill in this roster. I didn't think they got there. Michael says it's not a favorite pick per se, but I love all the college teammates and school packaging that happened. Eagles, Georgia, TCU to Chargers, Fresno State QBs in New Orleans, Georgia QBs with the Rams. Yeah. RC says, I wish the Jets had a better draft. Don't want Green Bay picking too high next year. Yeah, well, RC, you and me both. I don't want Green Bay picking too high either. I'd prefer if they had the 32nd pick, in all honesty. But we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. So that's going to do it for us on the podcast edition of the show. Appreciate everyone who consumed all the content. We had a special weekend edition of the show where I discussed my favorite draft classes. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to that, that's in your podcast feed. There's no video version of that, so you're going to want to check that out as well. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. Join us on the live show, the YouTube version of the show, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. You get the post-show shenanigans in there as well, so we're going to continue this conversation there. I hope everybody has a great rest of their Monday. I will talk to you all tomorrow. Parker Washington getting a shout out from Heldy here in the post show. Yeah, I mean, I thought there were a lot of teams that did really, really well. I thought Houston's draft class was strong. I think what they were able to do early was great. Thule to the Chargers. Yeah, the Chargers had a nice draft. Quentin, Thule, Deion Henley's a great fit. Darius Davis. Doubling up on TCU wide receivers is fun, like you mentioned, Michael. I really liked their class. I thought they did a nice job there. Let me scroll through and see if there's any other teams that I really, really missed that I wanted to shout out. Atlanta, their first two picks are good. Bijan and Matthew Bergeron. I thought those were great. Can I share a class that I didn't really love? Is that all right with everybody? Is that right if I share a class that I didn't really understand the mindset? I didn't really understand what we were doing. Is that all right? Are we okay with slandering a team a little bit here? I'll wait for approval before we slander. And I don't know if there's anybody in here that's a fan of this team, so I think we're okay. But I just want to make sure. All right, Sam says go for it. Everybody gather close. Gather around. I don't think the Chicago Bears had a very good draft. I said it. I don't think the Chicago Bears had a very good draft. I don't know what we're doing here. Like, Darnell Wright's a great pick. We got to get more offensive help. We have a very average group in these other positions. And we take Gervon Dexter in round 2, and then in round 3 we take Zach Pickens. And we don't really address the edges. We help the interior, but we don't address the edges. And for a defensive-minded head coach, I get it, but like we got all levels of the defense to worry about. Heldy says that he likes Darnell and Tyreek. Yeah, I mean it was their first pick, and one of their second picks. Rex says, but they passed on JMS and they got no edge there. Yeah, I mean, okay, this is fun because I don't look at it this way, but let's look at it from the perspective of who was on the board in the second round when they did what they did. This will be fun. So when they took, I gotta scroll down. When they took Gervon Dexter, here are the other players that were on the board. They could have taken John Michael Schmitz. In fact, they had 2 picks before John Michael Schmitz got taken. Thule was on the board. They could have taken DJ Turner. They could have taken, who was available in round 3, at the top of round 3? They took Zach Pickens to start round 3. But they could have taken Tank Dell. Garrett Williams was on the board. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I get it. They had an idea of what they wanted to do clearly. But to me, we focused, like, who said it? Michael said it. It felt like somebody read Drafting for Dummies, saw chapter 1, said build the trenches, and then stopped reading. But at the same time, Michael, they just built, like, the weird part of the trenches. Like, they drafted 3 D tackles. They drafted Gervon Dexter, they drafted Zach Pickens, and they took Travis Bell on day 3. They took 3 D tackles. They didn't take a single edge player. And then they took Noah Sewell in round 5. And I know this is not exactly how it works, so I don't want to criticize this too harshly. But we took Noah Sewell, and we just spent $1 bajillion in free agency on 2 linebackers. We don't need to be using picks on Noah Sewell. No offense to Noah Sewell, but we just spent money in free agency on that position, on that area of the field. we're going to then in the draft use one of our day 3 picks on him? Now listen, I like the Tyler Scott pick. I do. I think that's great value for them in round 4, and they needed a wide receiver. Again, I do not like that receiver room. The Darnell Wright pick is good. I think they needed a tackle, right? You got to be able to protect Justin Fields. But I ask the question of the group here, and as we do this pre-show, I am of the belief that this Bears team, as currently built, what they did in free agency, and this draft class, they are trying to win every game 16-9 with 250 rushing yards. Like that to me is what they're trying to do. They have a defensive-minded head coach who wants to play a defensive brand of football. That they are just going to run the ball, they're not going to throw it a lot, and they are just going to try to pound you into submission. And I'm sorry, I do not think that's going to work. I think Detroit's too good for that. I think this year Minnesota is going to be too good for that. I do not like where they currently stand in the pecking order in the NFC North. And I know it's kind of slanderous to not be in on Justin Fields because it appears like everybody is. But I'm not there right now. I got to see more from Justin. He was electric last year and was single-handedly the reason why they were able to be in games. But it was because he was able to run around. The passing needs to improve. He needs to see that Jalen Hurts jump in passing. And again, I don't really love the wide receiver room. I don't love the depth that they've created. So, again, there are picks in here that I like. I like Darnell. Tyreek Stevenson's not a bad pick. Tyler Scott's great value in round 4. But other than that, we spent a lot of picks in areas that I did not think we needed to pick, and we doubled down in some spots. When we took Garvon Dexter and Zach Pickens within within 15, 20 picks of each other? That just feels weird to me. We building out a rotation? We're using day 2 picks on rotational players? I don't know about that. I don't know about that at all. So they're one of the teams that stands out to me as, I don't want to say a loser, but like I have questions. I have questions about the implementation here of what this is going to look like. Let's see. Is there any other, when Moro Ojomo was available in the 7th, the emphasis on IDL seemed bad. Yeah, Moro Ojomo last into the 7th was interesting. Let's go through. Were there any other draft classes that I really just didn't like just really was confused by? None jump to mind, but that doesn't mean there's not one that the Jets one I've already mentioned that I didn't really love. Okay. Permission, chat, permission. We're gonna wade into the hot take waters here. So I'm looking for approval because we're gonna wade into the hot take waters a little bit. And so as long as everyone's okay, it could get a little rocky here, and this might be unpopular, but we're gonna do it right now, okay? After the first 3 picks that they made, what were the Seattle Seahawks doing? I mean, we had 3 good picks. We went Devon Witherspoon, we went Jackson Smith and Jigba, and we went Derek Hall. And then we just completely we just fell apart. We took 2 running backs. We took Zach Charbonnet and Kenny McIntosh. We used 2 picks on Kenny McIntosh and Zach Charbonnet. Now, those are great players in this class, in this running back class. I think they're fine. Kenneth Walker? Finalist for the Rookie of the Year? We had a great night 1. We walked in. I did the show, winners and losers from night 1. Oh, Seattle, what a great job. Witherspoon, yes, Sam. Kenny McIntosh is good value in the 7th. It is, but you have Kenneth Walker and you took Zach Charbonnet in the 2nd. That's why you don't take Zach Charbonnet in the 2nd when you're the Seattle Seahawks. They're gonna have 18 running backs. Oluolu was a good pick in round 5, yes, but I didn't like a lot of this. Washington's a team that's been mentioned. I haven't really looked at their entire class. I mean, they're always going to take a day 3 running back, Washington, so I'm not surprised they took Chris Rodriguez Jr. I don't mind their first 3 picks. I think Emmanuel Forbes is a good corner. Ricky Stromberg is fine at the center spot. Is it flashy? No. I think it's fine, though. Agreed. Healthy. That's fair. Non-game changing is what is how I would agree with describing it. Tampa's class is a little weird too now that I'm looking at it as I'm scrolling through all these. Tampa's class is a little interesting. Kalijah in round 1's a little rich for me. Cody Mock's a nice pick in round 2. Ryan Jensen replacement, basically. They look alike, too, so. So they were able, they did okay. I don't love this one, though. I thought all right, well, can we be positive for a second? You know, Heldy, I was going to say that I don't think they did that bad. I don't think the Niners did that bad, all things considered. Not having a round 1 or a round 2 pick, I think they did okay here. They did take a kicker, so in the 3rd round. So that's not great. Maybe I want to amend this statement. It's not great. Cameron Latu reach, maybe. I can't see receivers Forbes all going around 1. Guess teams aren't bothered by Sal's outliers. Yeah, that we clearly saw that. Heldy says I like Jair, Winters, and Bell. Yeah. Those are 3 good picks. And for a team that's dealing with all late day 2, day 3 picks, that they did well here. New England's class was a little weird too. They had a couple of, their first 2 picks were good. I don't mind Jake Andrews in the 4th. They also took a kicker and a punter. Never mind, I'm out. And for those reasons, I'm out. I forgot that they did that. Do you feel like Team Walkout? Michael, please rephrase your question. I'm confused by the grammar there. Help me, please. I thought Houston had a good draft. Did we mention them? Titans had the most Titans draft ever. Let's look at the Titans draft. Accidentally pressed send early. All right. Well, if you just rephrase the question, I'll handle it for you. I don't think the Titans had a bad draft. I think the Titans did well here. I think they got an offensive lineman in Peter Skoronski. Where he plays is to be determined. I'm not going to say that Will Levis is bad value where they got him. I'm just not. Tajay Spears is interesting just because it's a risk because you have a running back that is taking on such a big workload and he's going to wear down. So you need somebody else in that backfield. But to take a guy that has an injury history is a choice. I love Tajay. I think when healthy could make that a dynamic backfield. But I just think it's interesting that that's the player that they came back okay with that player from a medical perspective. Josh Wiley's a nice fit. Jalen Duncan, I think, is a nice flyer in the 6th round for an offensive lineman. So I'm good. I'm good with that class. Anyone walk out of their division anyone walk out of this draft clearly taking a leap in their division? That's a great question, Michael. Let's think about this. We're going to go division by division. AFC East. Did anyone clearly take a leap in their division? I don't think so. I think the AFC East is a no-go. The AFC North. Did anyone in the AFC North take a leap? I thought Pittsburgh got better, but I won't describe it as a leap. Baltimore, not a leap. Cincinnati is still the standard bearer in that division, and I thought they did well. No, nobody in the AFC North. The AFC South. Again, it depends on what you think of Anthony Richardson, but I think the Colts made a leap. I think the Colts got a lot better. And again, they're going to probably take their lumps with Anthony Richardson in year 1, but I don't think they did poorly there. The West, no. Right, Heldy, I think that's the right way to describe it. I think they will take a leap. I don't know if I can say right now they clearly took a leap. I think they will. I think there's so much day 2 value that they got, and they got some great players that I think they're going to be good. Can Philly take a leap from being the best to being super the best? Is that allowed? Will we allow that? Because they certainly made a leap. The Giants did well, but I don't know if they made a leap. They're just still the best. All right, fair enough. The North. Broncos picked up Jerry Jeudy's option. That's a bit of a surprise. Man, I thought with the way that they drafted that they might trade him. But all right. let's see here. Anybody else before I get out of here that we want to mention that took a leap? Did the Saints take a leap? Razee, Foskey, Kendre Miller? I wouldn't say a leap. No, Michael, I think no, I don't think so. The Colts would be the team that I would pick if I could pick one that I think clearly took a leap and got better. Like leap meaning they closed a gap that existed. I don't know if anyone else really closed the gap. Packers, I think, established a new identity. Well, for sure. They embraced what they're going to be moving forward, and they got Jordan Love some pass catchers to help him. So I can't hate that. But other than that, I don't know if anybody really took a massive leap and made themselves infinitely better. So, all right, guys. Appreciate everybody hanging out here today on a Monday. A little post-draft reaction show. Had a good time. Appreciate everybody being here. Prospects and props coming out later today. Jamie and I actually have to record 2 episodes today, I think. And we are going division by division and recapping draft classes. So if you want some in-depth breakdown on the draft classes as a whole and team by team over the next 8 episodes, so all of this week and the beginning of next week, we are breaking down all of the draft classes over there. So look forward to be able to having that for all of you. And then again, whatever else happens in the NFL world, we will have covered here on TDN Daily live each and every day this week, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're back in our normal spot because I'm back in the normal setup. So I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day and interacting. Give the show a thumbs up, please. Really helps us in the algorithm. And why don't you come on back and see us again tomorrow? How about that for a plan? Does that work for everybody? Hopefully that works for everybody. So I will talk to everybody later. Everybody have a great Monday. We'll talk to you all tomorrow.